makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I'm excited to have a conversation with Sandra Wolter. Sandra is the CEO of Sweet Science Coffee, speaker and mindset coach, where she combines her love for coffee with a focus on wellness. Formerly a journalist, Sandra now helps entrepreneurs with holistic approaches to business success. She believes in using coffee and superfoods to boost mental well-being, guiding others to build strong foundations. Good morning, Sandra. Can you share a bit about your journey and what inspired you to shift from a traditional career to founding Sweet Science Coffee?
Yeah, absolutely. So my career before Sweet Science wasn't all that traditional because I was in the media. So I grew up in a coffee business. It was kind of my background. I just didn't do it. So as an adult, I was in TV. I was working in the media because I didn't want to do what my parents were doing. And so going back into the coffee industry had a lot to do with a little bit going back to my roots and coming full circle, and specialty coffee was happening at the time. So it wasn't it was a break from the media. Yes, it was very different. But it felt like a coming home in that sense. I had a break in my personal life at the time. How some people, I think everybody goes through that at one point or another. Stuff happens. And you there's nowhere you can go. You reach this point where you're like, okay, I have two choices here. I can lay down and roll over and play dead, or I can really do something entirely different and turn this around and do something that's meaningful to me and meaningful to others, hopefully. And that's what I did. And coffee for me and Sweet Science was founded on that idea of the craft aspect of it. That was important for me. So not just the drinking and the serving, because there's only so much you can drink. But what I do is I practice it as a craft that gets me into flow state. It gets me focused. It gets me into a happy place. And that's a lot of value in that goes beyond the beverage, beyond the, just drinking for caffeine. So that was always there. So when I started Sweet Science, that was one of the motivators to say, you know what, if I'm doing this, I'm going all out. I'm not just going to do, here's your drip coffee. I'm actually going to teach this stuff and learn the chemistry behind it and the science, and then let people know, hey, you can use this as a tool to start your day out in a headspace that's healthy and not just for the caffeine kick. So that was the basic motivation in Sweet Science Coffee.
But earlier you mentioned about media. So why did you choose to go into media in the first place?
I think I used to say that, actually I would still say that. I grew up just liking words. That maybe sounds a little bit weird, but I learned to speak and write and talk and do all of that really, really early. And I was just fascinated by performing in that way, by wordsmithing and finding things and how to describe and translate experience into, that something that other people could relate to. It wasn't instilled in me or anything. It was just there, I guess. And so that, you grow up, and like I said, I trained in my parents' coffee shop. But when it came to what do you actually want to do, I wanted to travel. I wanted to go out there and, not necessarily be on stage or anything, but to do something that had to do with expression as far as word and picture goes. And so I went to acting school, got a degree there. But then I discovered quickly that I wanted to be maybe behind a camera and tell stories with pictures and put that together. And so I gradually slipped into it. What I meant earlier was to say it found me. I always used to say my careers, everything I did in life found me. It wasn't me hunting something or going out and trying to make it happen and thinking. It was, I slid into this career in TV literally by people telling me you can't do that. No one's going to hire you. That is a very highly competitive field, which is true. You have to earn your chops. You have to do this, that, and the other, maybe eventually. And it was just divine timing. I mean, it sounds very spiritual, but I happened to be in that place where I found a mentor, and he gave me, within 4 weeks, really, after applying, I got a job at that TV station. And I stayed for 14 years.
Wow.
and did that. Yeah. So, and that's pretty much also how everything else happened in my life, with the coffee, and you go through these processes of what do you need to learn, I feel, and yeah, that's where I ended up first in the media, which is good now. I'm bringing it together. So I'm putting it all together.
Yes. I think it was a great experience because you also got to travel the world because you said you go around taking pictures, right?
Well, I did. Yeah, the traveling part was less for the TV station. It was just because I had the flexibility to do so. I was in daily news, and I did some documentaries on agricultural topics. But that kind of work and that kind of lifestyle, of course, affords you the opportunity to travel and the opportunity to go and, explore different cultures and different countries and meet different people. So yeah, that was great for sure. It totally broadens your horizon. It changes your entire perspective, I think, on life. That's why I highly value travel. And say, you just don't know. You always, wherever you are at the center of the universe for someone.
Yes, I agree.
So yeah.
But you talk about coffee. So when people talk, for me, when I say coffee, you make it, you drink it. I don't know, it keeps you up from sleeping. I don't know, that's all I know about it. So now, when you're talking about coffee, you said you want to educate people about coffee. They can start the day with it. They can feel better drinking it, right? So
Right.
Can you explain a little bit more what do you mean by all that? Because for me, coffee is you make it, you drink it, you don't fall asleep, and you up and you move on. The end of the day.
Right, which is true. I mean, that's the main motivator for most people in drinking coffee. So where we, at the company, where we go deeper with that aspect is to say when you, because I went out, maybe that as a background, I'm a science nerd. I'm really nerdy that way. So I went out and got a postgraduate degree in coffee excellence to learn what actually happens on a chemistry level when you prepare coffee. So how the brewing method that you use, how the water that you use, the minerals in the water, the temperature, the technique, how all of that goes together into that cup. It sounds a little bit snobbish, but it actually does have an effect on how pure your caffeine is, if you're in it for the caffeine, and how pure the flavor is, and how pure the antioxidants are, and the anti-inflammatory properties that coffee has. There are ongoing studies, so there can be a health aspect to coffee, and of course you can control how much caffeine you ingest, and as far as health and promoting that basically and bringing that to people as a company goes. It was important for me to let more and more people know that, hey, everything in life, but in coffee specifically, is about dosage and timing, right? So what I would like to steer people away from, and I did that in the brick and mortar shops in our classes and workshops and stuff that we did, was to say, if you have a good night's rest, and a lot of people don't know that, your coffee in the morning doesn't do diddly squat for you. Yeah, a lot of people are like, okay, it's morning, I need my coffee. And that is a learned response. What actually happens if you had 6, 7, 8 hours of a restful sleep where you're not, waking up all the time, the receptors in your brain that are responsible for alertness and rest, they're already good. They're basically already blocked. Like everything that caffeine is doing, or the only thing that caffeine really is doing, the stimulating effect, is it attaches itself to these neuroreceptors in your brain, and it keeps the parts away that would make you sleepy, right? That's why you stay alert for some time. But if you are already well rested and you're not sleepy, the coffee doesn't actually do anything for you. It's just I'm so used to it. And if you know how and when, according to your schedule and your personal preference and where you're going and your daily goals, if you get into actually timing that, you can make coffee a very valuable aspect of your day, where it's not just keeping you going, but it's actually powering you when you need it, when your body actually needs it, and it can metabolize it and it can work with it. And that is the aspect that, that I feel a lot of people don't take into account and don't know about, which is why we're so big on also educating and saying, look at it like an ingredient, not just a standalone beverage on its own right. It's delicious. It's, it's awesome. But look at it as an ingredient that you can put into things, as a shot that you can add to things. You can, like a supplement almost, right? Yeah. And that's the story behind that. But I would never say don't get your morning coffee. Is that what you used to? If it keeps you going, that's fine, But yeah, that's the other aspect.
So pretty much, would you say that if they don't need it, don't drink it?
Unless you want to, unless you like the flavor. I mean, me personally, people always think just because I work in this industry, one of the first questions is always, so how much coffee do you drink? I guess you drink a lot of coffee, but I actually have 2 a day. One is very early in the morning before I meditate. And I do craft it by hand because that gets me in that flow state. It's like simply a practice for me, and I adore the flavors that coffee can give us. If it's if it's harvested sustainable, if it's not doused in chemicals as far as fertilizers go, if you purchase it consciously, where it's coming from. So I adore exploring different origins, right? That's for me, that's my candy shop. And that's what am I doing today? I'm so excited. I had one from Rwanda this morning, which was amazing. But in the afternoon, I have a small espresso-based drink. And I do that because the schedule that I have, that I set for myself, I know exactly what that shot of espresso in that small drink will do, how long it's going to carry me over without me jumping around and being awake and being up all night. And that's how I time my coffee intake, So absolutely, I always tell people, look, if you, especially the customers that we have that buy our, shots that have mushroom extract also and are going in that health direction, I tell them, if you're sleeping well, skip your coffee in the morning. Take it before you go to the gym. Take it before that taxing meeting that you have coming up, in an hour or so. It depends on the person and how they metabolize. But you can absolutely take it when your body needs it. And as far as flavor is concerned, if you're really loving coffee and you enjoy it for the flavor, then that is not a contradiction, But if you want it in the morning and I'm going to have more in the afternoon where I actually need the caffeine, there's great decaf out there. I mean, that sounds super weird to most people. Like, why would I drink decaf? I'm in it for the caffeine. But if you like the flavor, go for it, or go for low carb. There are so many options these days.
But would you say that coffee has health benefits?
It does, yeah, for sure. I mean, there are some that have been proven in studies. I touched on that, I think, earlier when I said anti-inflammatory properties. It can help with that. It's been linked to the reduction of type 2 diabetes. It has, antioxidants. And it definitely, the caffeine is the most obvious one. That's the one that's the most studied, so we know the most about it. But there are a lot of studies out there and ongoing. It's a very interesting field, actually, that deal with what I touched on earlier, the roasting process, because when you roast coffee, it gets darker and darker, it caramelizes, and It's basically like toasting bread. You can take it too far and then it's not good anymore. But if you look at that process, the chemical processes, that all ties into how healthy or unhealthy your coffee is, where you source it, how you source it, or not you, but the roaster, how it's grown, how it's harvested. All of that can have a benefit for the end consumer's health, right? And I say that also in a in a pure drinking way, where it's not always flavored, where there's not. I mean, we gotta be honest. The more sugar you put in, the more artificial flavoring you put in. Of course, then it's it cancels itself out. It's kind of neutralized. When you go and you put the topping and you have the cream and all of that on top, then of course there's not that much. It kind of counteracts each other. But coffee can definitely be beneficial for your overall health and well-being. Yes, if it's timed right and if it's dosed right.
Could you elaborate on the concept of substance? Forget what you do, build from who you are, from your upcoming book.
Yeah. That's my pet project right now. I love that so much. Actually, I'm really, and this is the part that brings me back to my media background, which I have not really dabbled in other than teaching classes in the past years. So Substance is built on my journey as first a solopreneur, because I started out my coffee shop completely alone. I was the team, right? Me talking to myself was the team meeting.
I love those meetings.
Right? Yeah. I mean, no one talks back to you. That's the good thing about it.
Yes.
We're doing this. No one's challenging you. So from that to go into entrepreneurship, where you're growing a company and of course you hire people and you have different roles and you're wearing all these hats. What happened for me was I went through all these processes and I went through really deep falls and failures and making mistakes and turning it around, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, because experience is the only thing that truly teaches in life. I believe it's words can translate as best as you can, but experience teaches in the end. And so when I started to consult a little bit, I didn't do it full time or anything, because I have the business. But when people come and they said, "Can you show us how, in my particular field, how to do a coffee shop, how to build that, how to start?" I had checklists and I had the whole thing. You do a marketing plan, finances and all of that, of course. But the pattern that I saw emerge is that what I was thinking, we always think we're so special. I thought I was especially bad with my mistakes. It's just no one else is doing as bad and as me. I was in that mindset at some point, and then I started to help other people build their shops, and I realized, it's kind of the same thing. You're building, and that thing that you love is so. It carries you into the business and it holds you over for some time, but then you realize, oh crap, there's so much else going on, and now I'm in the middle of it and it's avalanching down on me and there's all these challenges. And I really got to realize that there is so much value in going through a process where you start to question where you stand as a person, and you start to notice that whatever you have inside, and not just have inside as in it's given to me, but have inside as in I deliberately put it there. I put intentions. I put, I pick these days, I pick my intentions like I pick my clothes in the morning. And everything you do reflects onto your business. You're not your business, but your business turns into a mirror of yourself, because when you're not aligned, when your inner work is not okay, when you're wobbly, in my experience, you can have the best marketing plan, you can have the best everything on the outside. You go and you do a job interview and you yourself are wobbly, you look at the skill set, you look at the, GPA, whatever is on that resume, you will attract whatever you put out. You will attract, if you're wobbly, you will attract a wobbly staff. You will attract people that come in late, or you will attract clients that, back out on you or cancel on you, customers that are dissatisfied. It really, that's why I call it in taking inspired action is basically what the book is about, to answer that question. I decided to write a book about it after all these years, because I felt like, and I know no one's going to read it before they start a business, but that would be the ideal situation. I say, do your inner work and have fun with it before you put anything into physical motion. No one's doing it. We're all in the midst of it, and we're all crying by the time we reach out, usually, to some support, and that's fine. But that book is built on that. It's 8, I go through my own story, so I use examples and analogies from what I lived. And I identify 8 principles and 8 pain points that, especially in my experience, us women tend to latch onto, things like, procrastination, things like imposter syndrome. I hate that term, but stuff that has to do with worthiness and fear. And what I offer is a shift in mindset and a shift in perspective to say, this is nothing that I need to fear and club to death and wrestle to the ground and kill and oppose. This is something that can actually help me. It sounds weird, but procrastination is, on some days when you go for inspired action, that's my best friend. Because the procrastination is not the problem. The problem is that I'm beating myself up over it. I'm literally beating myself up over having a time buffer that would allow, I don't have the deadline now, but I'm beating myself up for not getting it done now, when in reality, the way I feel, this is giving me time to get even more clear, to get even more organized, to question, is this even what I should be doing, what I want to be doing? Is this in alignment with what I'm doing in my business? And that's just one example. So the book is really my journey, and those 8 points, that I'm touching on that you can change. And out of that, I'm sharing, a 3-step process that I've developed for myself that works really well for me, where in step 1, you really prep your mind for what I call flow state. I mean, it's, in a sense where you're focused, you're not like spacing out or anything. You're focused in a soft, happy place, which then allows you in step 2 to really sit down and appreciate every side of any subject or problem, whatever you're wrestling with. You pick your subject and you appreciate the sides without judging them. You're just observing them, and you pick a question or an intention that you have for that particular situation. And then you move into step 3, which is to completely go into trust mode, if you will, and go into a mental state where you're empty enough and quiet enough to receive an answer, receive an impulse for inspired action. And the hardest part is to not do, because we're fixers. We want to get, excuse my language, but we want to get shit done, right?
You see it right.
Right, and you have people around you that are like, this is important, go, like, do this. And there's a difference between a knee-jerk reaction that's induced, or something, yes, it's right here, right now, I got to do it, or, you know what, not yet. Doesn't mean not ever, just means not yet. And that is something that we really struggle with, that I see people really, really struggle with. I can't just sit and do nothing. That's no. Right?
But you know what? Sometimes we need it. We need to sit and absolute nothing. And that's the best moment where all the ideas flow in so well. And it's like, wait, I could have fixed this stuff. Yeah. But one thing I learned since I was a child is when I'm worried a lot, or when I'm moving too fast a lot, I make a lot of mistakes.
Right.
So exactly. I taught myself to step back. Like, sometimes I have clients that's like, well, we need to get that done. I'm like,
Well, if you cannot wait for me, I wish you best of luck.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. I'm totally in line with that. And it saves you time. It feels like you're slowing down because you're not doing anything right now. But I know from my business, I made some decisions, in the beginning where I remember my very first lease. It was a very small space and it was a cute space and I liked it and all of that. But man, I had like all of my life savings on the line. I was bringing my money to this country because no one's like, oh, you're from Germany, come on in and open a coffee shop. Like you have to bring it. And it's fine. I've made that choice. But I wasn't sitting on a mountain of money or anything. And I found this space and the landlord kept saying, actually, he literally said or emailed me, I remember, sign the lease or you're gonna miss the train. And I was sitting there and I was so nervous. I was like, I didn't feel ready at all. And I knew it. But it was so compelling and I signed that lease. And it was okay, but it was also very clear, very fast within 6 months that I wasn't in a space where, despite all of my research, it wasn't the right location. He had totally pulled one over on me with the rate because I wasn't American. I had done research, but man, now I know a commercial lease. If you have any questions, come to me. At that point, I just didn't know, and it nearly cost me everything. You
rushed into it.
Yeah, and because it was like otherwise it's gone, and it did fit my budget, but the price I paid later was so much greater because at the moment it fit my budget, yes, but then I was like, oh my God, I have all this aftermath to deal with, and that's what's happening continuously if you don't trust and you don't act inspired. If you do, it's just a shortcut in the end because it doesn't cost you as much money, it doesn't cost you as much sleep, you don't have to deal with certain people, so there's so much to it. You're completely right. Yeah.
One thing that I realized with shortcut, a lot of time when I take them, I return right back where I started in the first place. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm back to step one. So I guess I better just do it the right way this time.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think it's like the universe saying, oh, hey, let's do one more round. I feel like even like most people can relate to that. I feel like in personal life, like my friends, they date the same people. And I say, this guy has a different driver's license. It's the same guy you just dated.
I think it's a way they just get attracted to the same type of person over and over again.
Yeah, like what you have inside, you latch onto that, and if you don't move past it, and you don't realize it, and you don't change it, you just attract the same thing. It just looks different on the outside, but
yeah, I have a friend like that that's always dating guy that just keep beating her up, and I'm like, but why do you keep doing that? It's the same guy, it's just different face.
Yeah, and that's a point to the point with experience. Like you as a friend can say, don't do that. I can see from the outside this is not good for you, but only the experience of going through that, and if you have to 3 times, it is bringing that point home. That's not something that gets you anywhere ultimately. So
that's true. But when you're talking about Sweet Science Coffee, so I know you started your own coffee shop before. Mm-hmm. So for right now, Sweet Science Coffee only providing, teaching how to also start a coffee shop, but also the importance of drinking coffee and why you need it and when you don't need it. Can you kind of walk us through the whole process of what exactly the services the company provide?
So what we did, or what I chose to do, was I went from just a coffee shop setting where it's a brick and mortar. I rebranded the company. This is, we're in May. Yes, it was a year ago. That time moves fast. Because I wanted to go back more into the teaching. So what we're doing right now is really doubling down and focusing on that health and coffee. subject that I explained earlier, and we are offering snacks and services all around coffee and health. So we are talking shots, which are liquid shots that I mentioned earlier. We are launching a line of cold brew plus superfood gummies. So it's in the supplement region. So it's based on our house-made cold brew, and we add mushroom extract, spices, and fruits, so it's all natural. So those are the physical products, and then we have courses where you can learn more about the coffee science, about how to prepare it, what I talked about, what goes into the cup, what's happening on the chemistry nerd level, which is optional. You can learn it, you don't have to. And we send the coffee out to the people that want to do this at home. So basically, it's an all-inclusive package. So you get videos on demand, you get the study material, and you get the actual coffee that you can drink. So it's an instant reward system, if you will. You make it and then you have it. So those are the pillars that we do with Sweet Science right now. I mean, right now and for the future, not just right now. Excuse me. And the actual teaching and consulting that I do is it's not separate from the company because it's based on my entrepreneurial journey. But what I'm coaching is mindset these days. So that's where the book comes in. That's where coaching in general comes in. And I have a separate website for that, even though it's tied in together. But I think that those principles that we talked about is something that carries beyond the coffee part, carries into life overall. I keep it at a business level because that's where my experience is mostly. So those are the two pillars, really. Here's, the physical company that provides those services, courses, and snacks. And then I do coaching as in my role really as a CEO and mentor and coach. Yeah.
But it's unique what you are doing, because I never really heard anyone teaching or coaching on the benefits of drinking coffee. For me, it's just coffee. Like, it's have caffeine on it. It can be good. It can be bad. Who knows? God knows. Nobody knows. Drink it and don't fall asleep and you're good to go. So it's kind of like when I was reading about your company, it's like, wow, this is unique, different. And I didn't know this about coffee. I definitely didn't know that. So it's kind of like listening to you talking. I've been learning a lot, just like coffee, really? All that? But it's but when you said you drank it before you meditated. Is that something good? Because it's why do you do that exactly?
That's an excellent question. What you just said is what usually happens when people learn more about coffee. I don't think I ever had a class where no one said, oh yeah, I knew all that. People usually say, I had no idea. There's so much about it, and I mean, and we're not even touching on the whole sustainability situation and C2 cup. I mean, there's a lot going on. So I'm just keeping it at the brewing level where we are at as baristas at the end. But basically, the thing with, the meditation. Yes. See, now I was kind of in a meditative state. It was like, what am I answering right now? No. So the 3 steps, this is something that I figured out for myself, what works for me, right? When I was starting to meditate in seriously a few years ago and started to shift my mindset, I was the most tense breather inner and breather outer you will ever meet, right? Because I was like, breathing in, don't think, breathing out, don't think. It was not happening. I'm a like go person, and I really wanted it though, and I couldn't make it happen for myself. And I was looking for ways to get into flow state, to get into a state where I wouldn't either fall asleep or would concentrate too much. My mind was racing. You're in business, how it is. Like it's like you don't just flip that switch, at least not in the beginning. And I figured out, and it was really one day when I was at home very early in the morning. I didn't have all my tools, but I was desperate enough because I hadn't slept a lot. I needed the caffeine. And I made coffee, we like in specialty coffee use scales, and you use like all these nerdy tools. So I had none of that at home. And I just made coffee without a scale. And I just, for the first time, which is odd, in years enjoyed the process. Which gets lost when you're in it for a business. I talked to people about it, but I was really in a space where I did not take the time for myself to prepare that coffee and go into my inner space of, wow, this smells really great. Wow, this is just listen to the water boiling, just listen to what it sounds like when when gravity pulls that water down and it hits that coffee bed, and you get that you get that soft sound, and then you get the smell and the aroma, and you have the feeling of the kettle in your hand, and you're moving your hand in a certain way. And I had this moment while I was doing it, and that I've done hundreds, probably thousands of pour overs in my life. I said, what, this is as close to a meditative state as I've been. But I'm not falling asleep. I'm doing a craft. I'm doing something. I'm happy. It's soft. It's quiet. I'm focused. There are no weird thoughts. There's nothing racing. And out of that, I thought, what? Let me try to use that as a tool to ease my way into meditation. And just because it's coffee, it could have been, for other people. And that's what I say, it can be anything. That's what I say in my book. Like, if you don't coffee, that's completely fine. Do it with whatever. It can be clay, it can be sculpting, can be writing, can be music, anything really. And it doesn't even take long. Pour over takes me 4 minutes. It's not like this whole morning, 2-hour ritual. And then when I started doing that, I developed basically a routine where I'm sitting down. The first thing is the prepping. So I'm already in a really calm mental state. And then I sit down, and then while I'm sipping my coffee, I'm doing this step 2 that I touched on earlier, which is I pick one subject. I go over my calendar, and I'm not wrestling it to the ground. I pick one subject that's predominant. Might it be like today it was this podcast. Yesterday it was a call I had with a publisher. So it's something that's on my mind, and I just literally softly ask myself the question: how do I want to feel in this? Do I want to feel clear mostly? Do I want to not like what do I want them to get. I want people to feel understood by me when I'm speaking, instead of me, get this, right? Get this message. So I pick one subject really, and then I softly set an intention. And the caffeine, it wakes me up, but it doesn't make me jumpy. It's so early in the day, it's completely fine. Like what I just said, I rest well. The caffeine is not really pushing me over the edge. It can't even get to my receptors and it's a 10-ounce cup. I'm trying to think what else my cup is. I have my favorite cup. So yeah, that goes actually perfectly well, because by the time then when I sit down to meditate, like that, I don't even have these days, I don't even have to think anymore. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, or don't think it. It takes never longer than 5 minutes for me to reach a state where my body is pretty numb, or if I have energy that needs to calibrate, then something will move involuntarily, like my head will move or rock, or my hands will move or something. But that is that state where the space between the thoughts is really, really wide. And that's when, what you said earlier, that's when I have this idea that I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm like, oh. And sometimes that's when I start thinking again towards the end, I'm thinking, man, I hope I remember that. I got it. Or you could. And that I have my journal in front of me. So then when I'm coming out of meditation, I immediately jot down what came to me and, what I want to act on. And that's when I really nail, my intention for the day and say, yes, today it's going to be in this part of my day, it's going to be clarity. In this part of my day, it's going to be fun and ease. That's something we don't play enough. That's another thing.
That's true.
It's like, I don't think we play enough as adults. But yeah, so that goes well together, actually. That works fine for me, coffee and then meditation.
So when is the book coming out? Do you have any time frame yet?
Yeah, it's set for first week of September, so it's another 3 months. 4 actually. But I will have a pre-order list, and I will have a tab on my website where people can log on and be notified and get goodies and get checklists and get I also bring coffee usually. So we're gonna have fun with that when it comes out.
You're a coffee lover. It's fine. You are a coffee lover, so it's final. It's set that you are a coffee lover.
That is so fair to say. Yeah, I am. I love it for all its different aspects, and I really think that coffee. One part about this industry, specialty coffee that I'm in, that I so love. It's the perfect analogy to life. There's so much that we do in coffee that you can just take as an example. And even the wording, we say, let's calibrate the espresso machine, like you calibrate something, or let's use this filter to get out what we want to get out. That's what we do. When you meditate, you're cleaning your filter. Yes. And, there's so much that you can really take from working in any type of craft, really. But for me, it's this industry. For me, working with coffee that has a benefit that carries over and teaches you something,
What advice do you have for first-time female entrepreneurs looking to build a strong inner foundation for their business?
I would say, like I said earlier, I think ideal would be to start on the inside. And this second thing a lot of people don't want to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. Try to put what you love, I call it your love thing, whatever it is that you adore, that brought you to the place where you want to turn that into a business. Put that on the back burner just a little bit for some time, because that is the one thing that you have in the bank. That's your emotional investment. There's nothing more you can do. It won't go anywhere. That's a safe deposit, because what you need is really a very sure-footed sense of who you want to be in this business. And I don't mean the role. I mean, what is it about you that you want the world to know? What is it about you that you want people to connect to? You do it through your product if you have a product, but the product is already there. That's taken care of, right? I have a friend, maybe that an example serves. She is an amazing baker. She used to work for me, a wonderful pastry chef. And she struck out on her own because people will constantly say, oh my God, best cookies ever. And they are, right? No one ever goes into a business and says, you know what, I was so good at making cookies, and ever since I started this business, I can't come up with a recipe anymore. That's not happening. Your love thing is there. It will pull you through. It will pull you through the motivational slumps when they happen, at least in the beginning. But all the other parts of the business will consume 90% of your time in most businesses. As a solopreneur, even more, that's a different type of challenge. As an entrepreneur, for sure, when you start working with people. And so, what I would really say is, while you start planning your love thing and turning that into something that makes money and into something that, you show to the world, always be aware and do inner work on having a solid inner foundation and an understanding of who you are, and not just who you are that's given to you, but who you want to be, like literally, who do you want to be? And that changes and it evolves. That's fine. You don't have to pick this one thing and that's it for the next 30 years. No. But as a business owner, do you want to be a steadfast, value-driven person? How do you show that? There's questions that you need to ask yourself. And a lot of people also, especially first time, and I was, to some extent, I was one of them. I wanted to go home emotionally because this is where I came from. And the part with the chemistry that found me while I was doing it, But if you would have asked me, why exactly are you doing it? Exactly why coffee? Why that right now? I only had emotional reasons with all of my research, and that cost me dearly. I didn't think about who am I in all of this. I was pretty wobbly in the beginning. I was like, I love this. Every time people see me talk about it, they say, oh, you light up, this is great. And that's fun. That doesn't mean that they're going to buy from you.
Yes.
But every time I actually sat down and said, hey, what is it? What is it about me that I can do, that I want to do, that I can shine through without, what would shine about me if I didn't get to make coffee today? And for me, I have a very deliberate approach to things. I like to be deliberate in my approach to how I set things up, how I move through my day, how I handle things that I touch, how I sit down with people. And that is something that carries through. And that is something that you can see mirrored back to you when you talk as an entrepreneur, when you talk to someone you hire, when you hire a supplier, when you hook up with a potential client. There's a sense of, there's no need, there's an absence of, I need this because I have a bill coming. You might, but your neediness is not going to pay the bill. Right. So yeah, it's really, first time entrepreneur, do work on yourself, be so sure about why you really want this. What's the feeling behind why you want this? Don't do it because everybody around you tells you, oh my God, this is so good, you should do this professionally. Because what you do professionally is not in many cases what you will do now as a hobby or as something that you're really good at. That's going to be 10% for the longest time in your business. That's not going to be your day to day. So be aware of that. Like, know that, Okay. Know you need to find a way to embrace everything that you're creating. Know that you need to embrace a process. Know that you never get it done and that is a good thing. People, don't think once I have a solid income, it's all going to be great. Once I have $1 million, whatever the goal is in your business, just know that the outcome will never beat the process. You have to find a way to enjoy the process every step of the way. And the process is challenging. And you need to be sure about yourself and not just the thing that you love.
And what you said is true. It's a lot of time we just jump into things, we get them done, and we try to at least get them done, and we don't even realize that what we are doing is just creating a bigger mess than we already had in the first place. Because we think that, oh yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good at doing people's hair, so let me just open a beauty salon, and then people will just come. And in reality, that doesn't really work too well. And also, we end up realizing that I love doing hair, but I don't like doing people's hair. So, yeah.
That's totally a thing. And I think it goes both ways. I've seen people that were really successful pretty much right off the bat, and they couldn't handle that. It's not even, you always think the worst that can happen is people don't come. which is bad because yes, you've got bills to pay, obviously. But I've seen plenty of people that had the customers or the clients, and then they realized what you just said. I don't really, it's not really fun anymore. I don't want to, I'm not set up to do this for 100 people right now. And then you get stressed, and then all that spark and that love, it gets dim, and it gets, you take that takes away basically from your energy. And it really is, I can't stress that enough. A lot of things really go back to influences that we have around us. And it's not like the people around us are bad people. They're well-meaning and they're true fans, but they are not the ones getting up at 4 a.m. because you open your shop at 6. They cheer you on, but they're not going to be there with you. And you just got to be honest about that. And again, a lot of people don't want to hear that, or don't want to hear it, can't hear it until they're in it. That ties back to the experience. You can just hope that not too much money goes down the drain before someone does realize, that's that. Because I don't want to really discourage anybody who wants to be on that journey. That would be a double standard, because I'm on that journey, and I have learned, to really enjoy that process. And I didn't come from that with that mindset. But of course, there are families involved, there are kids involved oftentimes, which is why that's the one thing in coffee I say when people come and say, oh, we want to involve the whole family and we want to involve the kids and create a community space. That makes me, that makes me a bit weary, because I was a kid in a business, and
I know what you mean.
Let's just say your loving parents are physically there, because it's tough. Like it really can be tough, because you're living the business and you're bringing other people in it with you that don't have the choice, really. So that's something to really think about, and then it really ties back to the nitty gritty also. You get your financials in order, can you make that happen? Is that even realistic? What you're planning there, what's your margins? What are you charging? What can you charge? What makes sense? And that's also a personality thing that ties back into, what we were talking about, who you are on the inside, when whatever you prize is in the end not really based on the product that makes it. It's people buy what you give them energetically, what you give them as a person, just as much as they buy your product. I really have seen that, and so that's even more a reason to stay balanced and to stay with yourself and be able to do that in the midst of chaos, and even embrace that, which is a tall order, but it's doable.
But Sandra, how can someone reach out to you and also reach out to the company if they need your guidance or want to do business with you?
Just explore, do business with me. Like always, my chance. No, you can find us online. The company is sweetsciencecoffee.com. So that's the page where you find the services and all the products that I've described. Can sign up for a newsletter. There's a blog on there. And my personal site that goes into the coaching, and the upcoming book is just sandrawolter.com. So both of those are hopefully pretty easy to remember. It's the same Instagram handles and, social handles for the company as well. But so that's how you can get in touch.
Well, thank you so much, Sandra, for giving me that chance to talk to you, to learn more about coffee, because I don't drink coffee, don't get me wrong. I'm a tea lover since I was a child. I don't know why, because tea doesn't have caffeine on it. So my mom used to usually let me drink it since I was a kid. That the one that say no caffeine. I might be one. Maybe that's not true. But
I was say, green tea has caffeine. Obviously, depends on what
green. Some of them do. I've seen some of them have caffeine on it, but some of them you will say no caffeine on it. And I kind of go with that instead because I have a little bad issues when I was drinking one that had caffeine, and I would have headache every single day. And I end up spending over a year going to different doctors, and then they even put me in those machines trying to figure what's wrong because I keep having headaches, no medication is working. And until one doctor took the time to ask me, so how's your day going? Like trying to take me to the process of my day. And I said, well, I wake up, I make tea. Okay, you make tea. What type of tea? And I said, oh, I like to drink that tea. Then yeah, you have issue with caffeine. So when I stopped drinking that tea and I switched to a different tea, I don't have any headaches anymore. I was just fine. So my whole issues was just that.
Yeah,
it was kind of weird.
In tea, though, I'm not an expert with tea, but tea has tein, so it's not the actual compound that the caffeine in coffee has. It's a different compound. So if you have an intolerance to that or you react to that, that wouldn't mean necessarily that you would do not good with coffee. It's a different receptor. That's why some of these health foods that they put, they don't put coffee caffeine, they put like green tea caffeine or matcha, like they extract the caffeine. And that's not necessarily, if you're sensitive to that, that's not necessarily more healthy or more beneficial. What's good?
I don't think so, but I stay away from it anyway because I don't like headaches. It drives me crazy. So,
no, we don't want that.
So that's my experience with caffeine so far. So I haven't drank coffee in my life, but my mom loves coffee actually, drinks it every single day, but decaf. She always asks for the decaf. I don't know the difference between the two, but it's good to know that caffeine has something that can help you. Don't get me wrong. People like myself that drink it end up with headaches. I never really drank coffee itself. That gives me a headache. But I know if I drink a tea with caffeine on it, I end up with headaches. So I think there's different things that we can do in life. And I think being educated about it, it's kind of help. And I think that's what you are doing. Educate people on how to use it and what you can get out of it. Because everything in this world have its own benefits. But if you abuse it, that can also create the issues that you don't want to deal with. And I know some people that say they cannot go without coffee in the morning. They will have a headache all day long. I don't know why. I never really asked. And I'm pretty sure those are the things that you kind of go with your clients and teach them and guide them on how to use it the proper way.
Yeah, that's just you're training your brain and you're training your body to be used to a certain dose of caffeine, which is not necessary. And then when you take it away, you get major withdrawal symptoms. It's like with every other substance you can overdose on that is not timed correctly. And that's where that comes from, that people say caffeine is bad. It's just you're just not using it in the right way, basically.
Well, thank you so much, Sandra, and I appreciate talking to you.
I enjoyed talking to you as well. This was fun. Have a great day, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.